The grocery store was always filled with noise scanners, beeping, carts rolling, footsteps rushing, but for her, it felt strangely silent. Behind the counter, she passed items across the scanner with the same rhythm every day, her face hidden beneath the shadow of exhaustion. Customers came and went, rarely lifting their eyes to meet hers. To them, she was simply the cashier, the person who handled their groceries, not someone worth remembering. She was in her late 20s, yet the weight of loneliness had aged her heart. Her days were a repetition of good mornings that went unanswered and polite thank yous, spoken into the air as if no one heard them. When the store emptied at night, she would walk home under streetlights, the world around her just as dim as she felt inside. Sometimes, she wondered if she disappeared tomorrow, would anyone even notice? That thought lingered on a particularly heavy morning. The clock seemed slower than usual, and the line of customers stretched endlessly. Each face was tired, distracted, impatient. She felt like a machine, scanning, bagging, repeating. Her hands moved, but her spirit was somewhere else entirely, lost in a fog of invisibility. Then, without warning, it happened. A middle-aged woman stepped forward in line, her eyes calm, her presence unhurried. When their eyes met, the woman smiled, not a quick, polite smile, but a warm, genuine one that seemed to hold a quiet kindness. For a moment, the cashier felt the world pause. The heaviness inside her shifted, as if someone had lifted part of the burden she carried. It startled her. It was just a smile, wasn't it? Something so simple, so fleeting. Yet, it felt like a crack of sunlight piercing through her gray sky. She caught herself holding her breath, as though she didn't want the moment to end. When she finally exhaled, she realized her lips had curved upward, responding with a smile of her own. The woman didn't linger, didn't say anything extraordinary. She just accepted her bags and walked away, leaving behind a ripple the cashier couldn't explain. All through her shift, she replayed that smile in her mind. It was gentle, unforced, and it reached her in a place words never had. That evening, as she walked home under the glow of the same streetlights, she felt something different. The world didn't seem as cold. She carried with her a thought that refused to fade. If one smile could shift the weight of her entire day, what might happen if she gave that same smile to someone else? The next morning, she arrived at the store with a thought lingering in her mind like a quiet whisper. Could she really do it? Could she give away the kind of smile that had lifted her so unexpectedly? The idea both comforted and frightened her. She had never considered herself someone who could brighten another person's day. Most of the time, she felt like she barely had the strength to brighten her own. But the memory of the woman's smile stayed with her, steady and alive. So she tried. When the first customer of the day stepped forward, a man with tired eyes and a phone pressed to his ear, she pushed herself to lift her gaze and smile. Her lips curved, hesitant but sincere. He didn't notice. He finished his call, grabbed his bags, and left without so much as a glance. A sting of disappointment filled her chest. For a moment, she wanted to retreat back into silence, to stop trying altogether. Maybe that smile she had received was meant for her alone, a rare kindness not meant to be repeated. But something inside urged her to keep going, to try again. The next customer was an elderly woman with trembling hands. As she placed her items on the counter, the cashier caught her eye and smiled once more. This time, the woman's face softened. She smiled back a little shyly and whispered a thank you as if the gesture meant more than the groceries themselves. The cashier felt her heart lift. It was small, but it was real. Throughout the day, she continued testing her quiet experiment. Some smiled back, some barely noticed, and some ignored her completely. Each time she was overlooked, the doubt returned. Was she foolish for trying? Was her smile too weak, too invisible to matter? But then came moments tiny but undeniable where eyes met hers and faces lit up in return. Those moments became like sparks, proof that even the smallest light could be seen. She began to realize that smiling wasn't just about others. Each time she shared it, something within her shifted too. The heaviness she had carried for so long seemed to lighten bit by bit. It was as if by reaching out, even in this simplest way, she was building a bridge back to the world she thought she had lost. When she left work that evening, she noticed her steps were lighter. The same streets she had once seen as empty and cold now felt alive with possibility. Maybe she wasn't invisible after all. Maybe, just maybe, she could matter not through grand gestures or dramatic changes, but through something as small as a smile. The following days unfolded differently, almost as if life itself had shifted. The cashier began each morning with a quiet resolve. She would smile, no matter what. Some days it was easier than others. There were still customers who barely looked at her, still those who seemed lost in their own burdens, too hurried to notice. Yet she no longer let their indifference sink into her heart. Instead, she began to see them with softer eyes, wondering what weight they might be carrying that made them forget to look up. And then, slowly, she began to notice the ripples. A young mother juggling her toddler returned her smile with one of relief, as if grateful to be seen in her chaos. A man in a suit, worn down by fatigue, softened when their eyes met, his own expression lifting. Even her co-workers, who had once kept to themselves, began responding differently. One of them joked that she seemed brighter lately. Another asked if something good had happened in her life. She simply smiled, because she knew the truth was both simple and profound. Something good had happened, but it wasn't something, it was someone. One stranger's smile had woken her heart, and now she was passing that gift on. Her loneliness, though not gone entirely, no longer consumed her. She realized that invisibility had never been the truth. It had only been a story she told herself when she felt unseen. In reality, connection was always possible, hidden in the smallest of gestures. A smile, though free, was a seed of kindness. Planted in another's heart, it had the power to grow into warmth, comfort, even hope. One evening, as the store lights dimmed and she stepped outside, she paused beneath the street lamp. She thought back to the woman whose simple smile had begun this transformation. That woman would never know what she had started, how a single expression of warmth had reached someone standing silently on the edge of despair. Yet that was the beauty of it. Kindness didn't need recognition to matter, it just needed to be shared. As she walked home, she caught sight of a passerby whose eyes looked heavy with unspoken worry. Without hesitation, she offered a smile, steady and gentle. To her surprise, he smiled back, and in that brief exchange, she felt it again: the healing, the light, the proof that even the smallest action can change everything. She no longer asked herself if her presence mattered. She knew it did, because every smile she gave was a reminder that being human means being connected, and that connection was powerful enough to heal hearts, including her own. Life often convinces us that only grand gestures hold value, but sometimes the smallest things, like a smile, carry the deepest power. A smile is a gift we can give freely, yet it holds the ability to warm, to comfort, to remind someone they are not alone. This story of a lonely cashier is a mirror for all of us. How often do we underestimate the impact we can have? The truth is simple: every smile matters. If this story touched you, share it forward. Like, comment, and subscribe to Mindset Tales, and let's keep spreading light together.